Hey, how's it going, everybody? Jeremiah Nickel, aka JT Nickel on Reddit, at ProDJKC on Twitter. I haven't done a cooking video in a long time, but I figured we're going to knock out two birds with one stone. I got a wedding that I'm going to be preparing some pork for, and it's family affair, let's say that. It's my son. If you've seen a previous video that was talking about setting up a Ledger Nano S, a 10-year-old. If you go to YouTube and you look up this video, if you just keyword search 10-year-old sets up a Ledger Nano S, this is my boy right here. He's making homemade cinnamon rolls. He's doing a triple batch of homemade cinnamon rolls from a favorite recipe. It's actually out of a cookbook that's designed for kids, but it's a very pro recipe. I was kind of impressed with it. He's figured out how to do all that. So he's making the dough from scratch, and yeah, look, he's got a big knife, like father, like son. So what I'm going to do right now is produce some pork butt here, and one of them is a shoulder, I believe. But anyway, so these were cryovac from a local grocery store. So as I put on Reddit a little bit ago, I was saying if you have any comments or things you want me to talk about, I would try to address that in real time. So one of the first things was, do I have a local preferred butcher that I go to? Yes, I do. For this, I didn't have time to get with him because I needed to get started and get this stuff going. But I do try to go to a butcher if I'm going to be trying to get some prime or something local. So don't need to do that for what I'm doing this weekend, but yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pork out, cryovac. I don't need those juices. Those are all put in there from the factory. But what I am going to do is I'm actually going to take this piece of pork and I'm going to trim it. And I'll show you how I do that. Let me get the other one. And some people like to pat it dry and all that stuff. I'm not doing that yet because I'm not even close to that part. And honestly, I don't really mess with it because by the time I'm done trimming it, most of the juices are gone anyway, right? So that's just me. And there's no perfect way to do this. So don't take what I do as gold. It just works for me. Everybody's got their own style. And the pro chefs out there, I'd love to hear from you because everybody's got their own technique. So what I did was these were previously frozen, and I defrosted them for several hours in a cool environment. Most people do a refrigerator, but here in Kansas, we've been in our own meat locker as far as weather goes for some time. So it wasn't crucial to have it completely refrigerated. I just set it on the back porch because it's cold. All right. So anyway, there they are. So when you look at your cut, look at this entire slab of fat. Okay, I don't need all of that, but you also don't want to remove all of that either. Okay. See the bone in right here? See that medallion right there? I'll pull it up to the camera. All right. See this medallion? That is what I like to call the bite. Like that's the prime part of the, I think this is shoulder actually. So that part right there is kind of where the magic happens. So take my knife, what I'm gonna do, kind of look at it on edge a bit, and I'm gonna just try to shave off about half of that or so. Ooh, look at that. Hold that up to the camera, man. No, there's the camera. Scoot over this way. There you go. It's got, how many you got in there? 9? Awesome. So Jonah's doing a triple batch for the wedding, and the guests are coming in from out of town, and he's got cinnamon rolls dialed in, and he fell in love with those because my mom is really good at making homemade cinnamon rolls. So she's bringing up a pan, and Jonah's bringing a couple of pans to the table, and it's going to be a little cinnamon roll challenge out of that. All right. So I'm going to take this off here, and I'm not going to talk the whole time. But yeah, to go back to the local butcher, if you know well in advance. I mean, what date your party is and all of that. If you can find a good butcher locally, I'm telling you what, you get the meat right off of the livestock within the day that it was slaughtered, and that just yields a better result because it's not previously frozen. It doesn't go into a factory situation where they saturate it in whatever, antibacterial agents or curing process, right? You get right off the animal. All right. So what I do is I kind of hold on a little bit and just kind of score gently. Just trying to get rid of some of the really, really bulky pieces of fat off the back side of this cut. You don't, like I say, you don't want to remove it all. And then a good practice is to just take your knife and just score it. Just like that. The rest of this looks pretty good. Look at that. Look how marbled that is. That's good. And you get some of this out. Because what I do with this, I don't know if you can see, but on these shoulders, if you can pull this back, you can push rub right down into that. Gets it in nice and deep. But I'm also going to do injection, and I'll show you kind of how I do injections. Like I said, there's no perfect way to do it. It's just how I do it. And my results are good enough for me. All right, number 2. Yeah, this looks to be a shoulder. There it is again on this one. There's your medallion in the shoulder. Ooh, that's the bite. Come around this side. Oh, lost my tag. So a lot of interesting things going on in the space. On one hand, we see Ethereum at the top. The developers, everybody's kind of worrying about the Constantinople delays, and justifiably so, but a contract bug was, or a bug was figured out, and they decided to delay things. In my world, that's fine, that's expected, this isn't easy. This whole thing, I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that it is going to take longer than expected, but I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. And I know a lot of people do from an investor standpoint, but in any traditional tech stock, there's always delays, right? And I mean, when you're talking about the type of thing that Ethereum is trying to tackle, it's pretty lofty vision. Like, everybody in the dog knows that what they're trying to do is just unprecedented. It's almost kind of like how cool Bitcoin was, but Ethereum's trying to take it a step farther and be this big, world computer. And
second timer, 35 minutes, starting now.
He knows how to set a timer. That's good. So I'm fine with the delays. It's been a brutal bear market, and anybody that's been buying along down through this thing, as I have, here we are. So it's just a cycle. Crypto's not going anywhere. Not everybody. A few people come into our sub and they're like, it'll never achieve greatness again. This is it, and the world doesn't care about it anymore. Well, I think the moment they start caring about it, they won't even realize they're using it at this point, right? So it's going to be one of those things. Now it's all about this adoption, and I think some of the great things that are coming down the pike with some of these teams. So I'm cutting in. Oh, stop for a second. Cutting in against this bone, getting this ravine ready. You know, we got Maker and all the stuff with that. By the way, while I'm on that topic, you know what's really encouraging, and I've never messed with Dai before, was finding out about Gitcoin and the different projects that are out there that you can become. Basically, it's similar to like Patreon, except it's not, you know, in the ICO days, you were giving your coins away, right? Like Bitcoin or Ethereum, the coin itself, right? And then with this Gitcoin, it's pegged to the dollar. So if you want to give $5 a month, you know, and you don't want that to be based on the price of Ether at the time or whatever, that's my understanding at least, is you can do that now. And so I chose ethhub.io, with Eric Connor and Anthony Sassau. Hopefully I said his name right. Those guys are building something pretty cool with trying to become a good authority in the space to trust and, you know, listen to podcasts. They just did Taylor Monahan for my crypto wallet. I think they've done Prismatic Labs. It's really promising, and there's some other projects as well. So I'm not really, you know, I'm not shilling for them, but I trust that they're doing some of the best work right now on education, which I think Ethereum is sorely lacking. You know, it's really hard to follow the developers' calls because it's so hard to understand. These guys are so intelligent, but I feel like Eric and Anthony are doing a good job kind of breaking stuff down a little bit to make it easier for the common person to get in touch with, right? So Jonah's rolling out. Is this your third?
Yeah, it's
He's doing 3 pans of cinnamon. He did a triple batch. So he's got this, is it butter and brown sugar and cinnamon?
And, yeah.
And so he's gonna roll that out and smooth it out, and away he goes. I've never made cinnamon rolls. This was something that he's just like, I like eating them, so I want to make them. That's you know, I like pork, so I learned how to smoke it. Same kind of concept. Hey, so I'm looking at the Reddit thread right now. I'm going to refresh this page and see if there's any more people, seeing if they want to pick my brain on anything. But I'm about ready to start rubbing this and injecting it. Gotta wash my hands. So yeah, once upon a time, Jonah, I got a video on my channel of him setting up a tracer or not a tracer, but a Ledger Nano S. Because I felt like, you know, if we're going to try to get adoption going in the space, it's got to be useful, you know, for more than just adults. And in the video, you could see him as when he was like 10 years old, trying to figure out how to set it up with the seed phrase and everything like that. And the point of that video was, if it's easy enough for a 10-year-old to do it, then anybody can. Keep your funds safe. Oh, by the way, show you another little thing I like to make. Mixed nuts in the oven. Have you ever roasted nuts? You should try it sometime. It's really easy. I love Brazil nuts and pecans. That's all killer, no filler right there. Really easy to do. 225 degrees in an oven. You roast them for about 15 minutes and then stir them up and then do another like 5 to 10 minutes. Butter. Got to use real butter. Worcestershire sauce, and then in this particular batch, I use this honey Aleppo pepper seasoning, widely available at wherever, TJ Maxx or Marshall's, those little aisles where they do all those little seasonings. I love all those. And then I love tahini. If you haven't tried that, I wish I could be sponsored by this. One of my favorite all-time is dehydrated lime crystals with sea salt and chili peppers. And it's actually very good on pineapple, tomatoes, fish, everything. I put it on a lot of different things. Okay, so now, oh, he's on his last one. Okay, so he's scoring about how thick he wants all these cinnamon rolls to be. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my injection. Before I do that, talk about rub. Make your rub at home. It's pretty simple. Honestly, though, if you want to save time, it's perfectly fine to use McCormick's or whatever barbecue rubs that are out there. But it's basically, for me, it's a pretty simple method. If you want to do an injection rub, you have to avoid leafy herbs because it won't go through the needle very well. So for my rub for today, because I am doing an injection, I use salt, obviously. So my solution is this: half salts and herbs, or powders, no herbs because I'm injecting. Half that, half white sugar. Only because white sugar dissolves a little easier, and the salt dissolves, and you got to dissolve all that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bit of my rub here to make my injection solution. There's no perfect science to this. All I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a spoon here, put it in this little container. It's like a Ninja blender thing, but I don't need to blend it. Quite a bit in there, about a cup. And if I have to do this a second time, I certainly will. All right. It's probably about a cup total. Okay. And apple juice. Doesn't have to be real. Doesn't have to be 100% apples. I know you're getting your high fructose corn syrup people triggered here. Okay. You know what? I might just go ahead and hit it in the blender anyway. I'm going to refresh this page, see if everybody's got any other questions. All right, no new questions. All right, there's that. Okay. And just a little bit more apple juice. From concentrate. This is funny. This is so generic. From concentrate with added ingredient. Quest. Woo. That's like no good. Filtered water, apple juice concentrate, ascorbic acid. Oh, well, okay. Well, it's 100%, I guess. I thought it was going to be full of high fructose corn syrup, which, for what I'm doing, is fine. All right. Good to go. So, how about the ERC20 donut token idea? I'll be honest, pretty lofty. Interesting, no less. Figuring out a way to monetize Reddit karma. Yeah, lots of people on both sides of the fence with that. And me included. I'm just kind of along for the ride with that. So, syringe doesn't need to be expensive. It's just a cheap one. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to set this pork butt in the pan where it's going to go. That way, if anything drips out, it just stays in the pan. Transfer this over here. All right. Good. I'm going to put it on edge where that bone is. I'm going to park some of this right here in that medallion I was showing you earlier. Okay. And I don't know if you can see this on video, but it actually wants to plump up. And I don't get too aggressive with trying to put too much in any one incision. It's actually pretty good practice to do just multiple incisions, but a little bit. I'm going to move into this bigger portion here. I'm just doing like maybe a teaspoon at a time. Okay. And some people like to do injection, some people don't. It's a matter of personal preference. I'm doing injection for a very specific reason, that when I start smoking this tonight, believe it or not, it's going to be 0 degrees outside. So what's my goal? My goal is that I'm not going to try to cook this thing for the full time, to temperature, to spec.
35 minutes.
Because
third timer.
I don't know that I'm going to get there. And what
Starting
happens
now.
is if you try to do it and you try to get too aggressive with your heat trying to battle the cold, what you're going to do is you're going to overcook it. Or not overcook it, but dry it out over a longer period of time. So all I'm going to do is try to get the flavor in there and then bring it in the house and finish it in the wee hours of the morning. It'll be negative wind chills where I'm at while I'm doing this tonight. But I'm okay with that because I like the pain. It's going to be delicious. So beyond that, what else am I making? I'm going to make baked beans. I'll use some of this rub in the beans. And I was going to make barbecue sauce, which if you want to make barbecue sauce, you use the rub that you're using. And you use a lot of ketchup and mustard and molasses stuff. I'm not going to do that. What barbecue sauce do I like? I like Famous Dave's. I think Famous Dave's pretty foolproof stuff, and I like all the flavors that they produce. But if you are going to make your own, mustard, ketchup, you know, a southern style barbecue is going to use a lot of mustard and vinegar and stuff like that. I use a little bit. And you
Set a
cook,
timer for 35 minutes.
You cook it slow, and you can
Fourth
introduce
timer,
like a wheat beer into
minutes.
the
Starting
barbecue
now.
sauce, and molasses. Like Kansas City style is going to be generally kind of sweet. All right. Get the second one done here. And you see just how much fluid I'm using here. I had a total of approximately 2 cups. There's that medallion piece right there. That's going to be the bite. Oh, it's so good. What's in the rub? Onion powder, garlic powder, paprika, cayenne, salt, sugar, black pepper. I have different rubs that I use, but this one is very like all-purpose. You could do this one on ribs. I do have some other rubs that I use for different reasons. I have one of my favorite recipes that I came up with, and really I don't write down a lot of recipes. This one I did is Indian seasonings, in a rub with coconut, and then do that on a dark meat chicken. And the dark meat chicken then becomes smoked, and I take that rub with all those Indian flavors. Ooh, it spurted out of it. With all those Indian flavors, and then I reduce it in a saucepan with coconut milk, almond milk, and heavy whipping cream. So you get kind of this really dark, savory Indian flavor cream sauce. Pull that dark meat chicken onto a street taco. And yeah.
Someone...
Oh yeah? Hit F5 on there. Okay, here we go. Speaking of cinnamon, I just started adding some rub. Okay. All right. So this goes, somebody had responded talking about cinnamon in my rubs. So when I do my Indian style street tacos, I do add cinnamon. And actually another thing I add in there is chocolate, believe it or not. And then somebody else says, what would you say to new investors that have just joined in the last couple of months? That, I'm telling you, what the market feels like to me was after the Bitcoin bubble of 2013. It was the tail end of 2013, and then 2014 was this really long grind, right? Here's the thing, though. This is the longest bear market in crypto history, which is still very young, obviously. So what would I say? I say just dollar cost average. That seems to work for me. A lot of people that have been around in this space for a very long time, you know, this is obviously not investment advice. But don't invest more than you can afford to lose. And that is it. You are on your own, right? What else would I say? Let me read this again. What would you say to new investors that have joined in the last couple of months? I'm saying if you're young and you're tech savvy, try to build something. You know, some say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. I'm kind of an old dog, right? I'm kind of set in my ways. I don't know that I'm going to be able to learn how to code in a meaningful way, but what I can do is use the dApps, right? Use the ecosystem, which I love to do, and try to get feedback to developers. Here's the deal. If somebody in their 40s can muster through trying to figure out MetaMask and extensions and signing and all that stuff, if somebody like me can do it, then I think we're kind of on a pace, right? And so the new investors that are coming along, you know, you're going to have to make your own way. However, I feel pretty good about things. It's going to take years. So if I had to say anything, have a horizon longer than 3 or 4 years.
The oven to 350.
I can't touch the oven, Jonah. Go ahead. My hands are nasty. All right. Now, I'm going to kind of move on to the next step here. So I have all this liquid in my pan. The pan is fine with that extra liquid, but what I'm going to do is actually take, if I have some napkins here, I don't have any paper towels handy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pat this dry a little bit. Just try to pull some of that moisture off. Because when you go to rub,
Echo.
oh, there you go. Got a
Cancel
timer
timer.
going off here. Pat this dry-ish. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just trying to pull a little bit off, because when the next step is going to be to rub. And you see this bottle of mustard here? I learned this trick just from experience, seeing some good barbecue guys in the area do it, is to use mustard. And if you don't barbecue much, and if you don't like mustard, it's really not about getting the mustard flavor. Mustard just seems to work pretty good as an all-purpose way of holding the rub to the pork.
I need to get in there.
Okay, Jonah's going in hot.
No, I just have to move the rats.
All right. Safety lesson here. Got it?
Yeah.
All right. Tell you what, if crypto climbs and I can do it, I would love to have a kitchen with a Viking grill or a Viking range. Such a dream. Big old gas 6-burner thing. My house is tiny though. It couldn't happen here. I got my outdoor stuff figured out, so that's good. All right. That's probably fine right there. My hands are full of pork. It's okay. I have just enough mustard to kind of get the job done here. So the mustard, like I said, just kind of holds on to the rub a little bit better than just the native juices of the pork. That's a good sound, isn't it? Wonder if you guys are going to Eth Denver. If you guys are going to Eth Denver, I hope you're going to have a good time. I have never actually been to any developers conference. In fact, in Kansas City, there's a pretty active Bitcoin cryptocurrency group, and I've only been to one meeting. I don't, you know, someday I'll get there to those conferences. I always joke that, you know, DevCon 7, DevCon 7, Kansas City, the meetup. I'd love to have like Grammatic come. Shout out to Grammatic, doing what you do. All right, so rub time, liberal amount of rub, right? I've got a lot of it. You're gonna have. Always make more rub than you think you need. All right, just like that. Remember this pocket here? Put it in there liberally. Okay. Oh, gotta get this pocket. Just like that. So, you know, the rub doesn't always penetrate real deep, but with that little bit of sugar in there, you know, actually quite a bit of sugar, that helps you get that really good charred bark feeling or taste, texture. All right. So next step will be to cover these up. We're going to go cool down in the refrigerator for a few hours, and then at some point, probably around 10 o'clock tonight, I'm going to fire the smoker, put them on, and then probably pull them off in the morning and finish them in the oven. So there you have it. Barbecue. All right. Cheers. Big hugs from Kansas City. Take care, guys.